to start designing my sprites, I always need to look through the internet of references on regards to what sort of idea I need to go with the design. With the police officer, we can see here that I have been looking through the internet for references on regards to animations and etc. But the main design of the office chair is more in lines with this, but adding some minor extra details to not make it downright this. Going on to Photoshop. From there, I will go ahead and design a nice simplified version of the sketch that I have found. Creating a simple design using the tools giving to me. And creating a nice chair. And going on from that point, you will then create the higher quality version that is shown here. With the police officer, I looked through different reference images of people sitting on chairs because I am not skilled enough to draw this by itself. I have to have a reference towards how I would draw it. I believe I've done a pretty good job in designing this and making it work well with the size and proportion. And the only other real problem I could say that comes with this is there's no real color coding with this design, but that's not important because the color coding is for the pixel art and this will just be concept art of the officer. After that, I place the sprite work onto the file of all sprites needed, and from there we go on to the next step, which is the pixel art. Now, the pixel art is simply done by grabbing the image, of the object on Photoshop, and then resizing it down to being a small size. From there, I will go ahead and create a more rough pixel art design that fits with my game. So for example, if I were to grab something like this air duct, I copy it, new file, and paste it. And from this point, you will go ahead and grab the sprite size, wrong one. You grab the sprite size and then lower it down somewhere on the lines 30 to 50%, and you choose 3 different methods. None are important for this step, but for other steps they are. Now if we do this, it goes ahead and shrinks it down, and then from there I would normally just go ahead and create a new layer where I will draw the sprite in a simpler form. And then I will add my details along the way and add its actual coloring. Going on from there, we have the box. Now, the player of the game is shown like here, and simply is I first started with the concept art, shrunk it down, once again, the same steps as mentioned before, except this time I add some extra details like shading towards this darker side of his skin and the lighter grey on the edges to add more depth towards the character rather than keeping it a plain black design. And then once I create the box sprite, I will create a copy of this to work on an animation version. Like as seen here, this is the idle animation. I've already gone ahead and shown the idle animation in another video, so I won't go about explaining what I do and why there's multiple versions of the animations. But as seen here, I go ahead and create separate ones for each different animation: his jumpings, his walking, his idle, and then we move on to the police officer, which again, you can see where I have grabbed the image from the Photoshop and reworked it in pixel art. Then I add the details like a simple face, the color coding to signify his role in the game, and then after that I create an animation. This animation is of him drinking so that in the game he will be using this animation to signify him distracted, meaning that you can run across to your next hiding spot before he goes ahead and spins. From this point, he will go ahead and drink from this rotation where you've got to keep hiding. What was a challenge with making this animation was the way to rotate the player, the obstacle. What I could have done is the simplest version of just making a cartoon tornado effect, except I didn't feel like that fitted my style for this game. So what I did was I created first a second frame where the check stretches out a bit further and the officer doesn't move much besides just changing his position every so often. And from that point, you go to the next animation where I create a whole new part where he is facing forward, and this only shows for a frame, meaning that it's not really going to be shown a lot in the game, so you cannot tell a lot of the issues with this part. Next, I just mirror the image so that it works for 2 frames, and then he'll go about drinking facing the other way by just mirroring it. Again, as mentioned before, I just create a simple one version, and then from there I create copies for the animations. Now going on to the level. The level features many different parts for the game. This is a showcase of what my level will be like in the final product. As of course shown, all the sprites that will be featured in my game have been shown here, except they have been shrunken down to fit the layer's canvas size. This is why the police officer, for example, looks choppy and like less quality compared to his actual design. In the final game, it will look like this because I'll just create the sprite work from this sprite sheet and then just resize it from there rather than using Aseprite's own designed resizing tool. Another little thing I have done is create a small Boxman design just to help with showcasing its size, because if I were to just use the design from here and shrink it down, it would mess up the sprite completely and it would not look great. If I could show you, I would just go ahead, create a new layer, paste it. So as you can see here, here he is in its full design. And then of course if I just merge these layers down a bit, and then if I retooled the sprite to go down in size, you would see the problems that can occur. That is why I retooled it in the way I have. Now if I layer. So the animation shown here, if I go ahead and play it, will feature the officer drinking and turning around so that it would showcase what the level's going to be like, and then it will show the idle animation for the bot. Now to go on the many different pieces for this. First things first is that I have created a copy of this, but just with the background details rather than this extra furniture stuff and the shelves. All the shelves are in the separate files as seen here. The office table is its own thing. The same goes with the shelf, and then the extra long shelf. The monitors have been done here again, but of course they had to be shrunk to fit the canvas size of the Sprite file. And from there we go on to the cabinets, which have had tiny details. For example, if I were to just grab my bucket tool by hitting G, you could also hit the gradient tool, which if you select the radial gradient and then select an area, once you held down, you can go ahead and create a bubble. That is how I've done this lighter tone aura around the gray design to stop it from keeping it plain. This is the shrunken down cabinet to help with the platforming, because as seen here, the player will go up, hide behind the monitors, and then jump up above where he is safe, go back down where he's no longer safe, and then go to an air duct. I have not made the air duct and some minor things like books to hide in or books to climb above just yet, but they will be done soon. And from there, that should be all with explaining my sprite work. The biggest problem I have had is that I cannot remember to record me creating the sprites so that I may speed draw in a time lapse. That is why you see here I have a very choppy explanation on regards to how I have made these sprites. If I were to do this another time, I would definitely remember to keep note that I should record me making the sprite and then uploading it as a time lapse. Going on from there, though, the next things, of course, are the final sprites of the air duct and books. And from there, I will start working on my Unity game. I will upload all of my sprites made here onto the Unity file, and from there, I will add all the mechanics and bug testing just to fix and make the project as best as it can be. There are no other site work to mention for this week because I have been busy with other things, and I have also been doing some minor things like the animation for the office level. I wanted this done so I can quickly showcase to the audience what my level design will be like, and it's a great way to show and to get thoughts on what changes can be made towards this level after showing it to them. Anyway, that's all for this video, and I'll be recording next week.